Shalom, good afternoon from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen. Our introduction will be much shorter than usual. Today is October 7th, and Our Lady Roseanne Barr, at her own request, is going to speak about October 7th. She's also written a prayer for the martyrs. So Greg, Zvi, Frank, and I will skip our usual introductions. Roseanne will speak now, and then she will open for questions and comments. So Roseanne, it's all yours.
Well, maybe I was wrong to think I should go first. I think maybe I was wrong. You guys should. Do you have something to say, you guys?
We always have something to say. I'll skip what I have to say and defer to young Jewish Jedi masters Frank and Greg Zvi. So, I mean, on a day like this, I'll say something. All right, I'll say something. 3,300 years of anti-Israelite, because we are 12 tribes of Jacob Israel, pogroms, Holocaust, genocides beginning in Egypt were summed up and replayed in 7 or 8 hours on one day. That's what it was. That's what it is. It's now a year later, according to the English date. If you follow the Hebrew date, it would be different. It would be Shmini Atzeret, the festival of the ingathering after Sukkot, which is Tabernacles, would be on Thursday, October 24th. Our Lady Roseanne wanted to follow the Gregorian date because that's what most of the world out there knows. That's all I would say. Now I defer to Greg and Frank to introduce Roseanne.
Well, thank you so much. I saw on Twitter that Netanyahu called this entire war, I don't know if he meant the whole war that we've been experiencing or the war, the Lebanon war. He called it the war of resurrection. I mean, really, in Hebrew, he used the word tkuma, Tkuma in English, and if you translate that, it's really more revival, or renewal, because I thought he would call it tchia. But it's interesting, when I look up the Google Translate, it only uses the word tchia, like tchiat hametim, resurrection of the dead, resurrecting dead, dead people. But otherwise, it uses the word tkuma. It's interesting because tkuma used to be a political party, like a right-wing kind of religious Zionist political party back in the I think it was the 80s and 90s and also early 2000s, and it got defunct. And then I think Naftali Bennett revived it. It's a whole story. But so he called it Tkuma. So I'm thinking, like, I guess it's close enough. I guess there's some kind of consciousness going on. He could have called it anything else. Meaning he's thinking about, like, the question is, what is he thinking about? What is he thinking about? What kind of revival is he thinking about? Revival of what? Taking back land, or taking land that belongs to us biblically, or maybe rising up from what happened on October 7th. Like, I don't know what specifically he's referring to, but it's interesting that he uses the term that he used is translated as revival or resurrection, because we know, Frank and I talk about this all the time, even though it's kind of what I like to call religious speculation. But we have sources that talk about the resurrection starting very, very soon.
That's what I think it is too. I think it is that as well.
Yeah. So
that's what I'm going to talk about. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah,
Frank,
listen.
what have you got to say?
I'll comment quickly on that. I'm very glad that he didn't call it Tehiyat, because if he did, I would be devastatingly disappointed, because Tehiyat Hametim is really all I'm waiting for, so I can be reunited with my loved ones, so all the rest of you can also be reunited. And if it turned out to some kind of like political statement, man, that would just be disappointing. So I'm glad that he chose a different word. So what I wanted to say was, it's really something I heard from Rabbi Manis Friedman today. I overheard something that he posted today where he was saying that it's been a year and he hopes that this doesn't become a mourning type of memorial. He said, we've mourned for a year. I don't know if I fully agree with what he's saying, but I get the principle. We've mourned for a year, and he compared it to Hanukkah, where at the time of Hanukkah, afterwards, there wasn't an immediate celebration. People were reeling from all the loss, the torture, the murder, the devastating losses that they, and many other things that occurred during that war, during the Hanukkah war. And after a year, the rabbis declared that it's now time to recognize the unusual events, the miracles that occurred with the victory in the war and with the oil. Okay, they almost made it mandatory to stop mourning and to recognize the things that occurred that are miraculous. So essentially what he's saying was that we, as bad as it was, we have to recognize how bad it should have been left to what we consider to be natural law. 4,000, like in this case with October 7th, 4,000, probably more, maniac animals, were permitted to storm into Israel, and they, it was an entire army. They were all equipped with grenades and really automatic AK-47s and AR-15s, not semi-auto, but they were armed to the teeth, and they should have given 7 hours of freedom of moving through Israel with impunity. They could
with no military intervention
at all for 7 hours, and so they left to natural law, just basic laws of physics. They should have been able to kill many more people, many times more. So the fact that they were not successful at doing what they should have been able to do is a miracle. We have to recognize that, as tough as that is to swallow. It's a fact.
And we have to remember too that the next day Hezbollah fired rockets at Israel on October 8th. So it was a multi-front war launched on October 7th.
Also, just more reinforcing the miracle thing, because they've launched what Hezbollah has launched probably in the past 18 years, without exaggeration, a minimum of 40,000 building destroying rockets, a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and many times they get through the Iron Dome.
Yeah.
And whenever they do, like 99% of the time, they land either in an open field or a house that people just left. Very rarely does it actually like really harm or kill a person. It has happened, but so rare that we're supposed to, after, certainly in the past year, right? We have to, the whole world has to be like, all right, I mean, something's going on. God is obviously protecting the Jewish people. It just seems so obvious and almost, I'm not going to say cartoonish. What's the word I'm looking for? It's so absurd. It seems almost absurd how little damage the enemy is being able to do. Clearly, we're being protected by God. So that's what Rabbi Manis Friedman's point is, that we have to recognize the astounding heavenly intervention that we received in the past year. It's undeniable. People try to deny it. People like McGregor, and that whole crew, right?
Yeah, he's the worst.
They're trying to say, oh, the Iranians are so
wrong every time. He's always wrong. Okay, well, are you going to introduce me so I can say my thing?
You
Are
need
you
no
guys gonna
introduction.
introduce me?
The great Roseanne Barr needs no introduction. She just
Well, I do need an introduction.
Roseanne,
I
I'm
need
gonna introduce you in the following way.
what?
A person, I was just talking to some friends on Rosh Hashanah at dinner, and I said to them, these are people who lived in Israel. And in Israel, you had a guy, he actually passed away recently. His name was Uri Zohar. He was like the George Clooney of Israel, and as far away from Torah as humanly possible. And then he did tshuva and he became a rabbi. So I
Wow.
said to them, I spoke to, because we spoke last week, and I said I spoke to the Uri Zohar of America, but you never were far away from Torah. I'm assuming. And so that's how I kind of related that to these people. So they understand who I spoke to and who I'm going to speak to, we are speaking to. So that's the best intro I can give. And I think it's incredible. I think it's incredible that that this is happening.
I think it's incredible that you compared Uri Zohar to that douchebag George Clooney. That's the problem that I'm having.
Well,
everything else is true.
I'm talking about levels. Obviously, there's no comparison here.
I have to look him up. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, I mean,
I
this
don't
is like,
want you to do a whole thing about him now. Just give me an intro. Give me a
and
good
so
intro.
so basically, we have Roseanne here, who had, for those of you guys don't know, or
You
maybe
guys are
forgot.
never gonna make it on a roast, I tell you.
I know. I mean,
Can
on a
I
roast,
help a little bit?
on a roast, I'd have
Yeah,
to.
let Lowell do it.
On a
He's
roast,
the
I'd have to
roast
make fun of. On a roast, I'd
master.
have to make fun of you, and I
You
could
guys
I could
are
easily do
not,
that.
no, Toastmaster, I'll
All right.
say. You're no good at toasting, either
I
one of y'all.
can't,
You
really
gotta
can't
grow
do
up
this
a
with
little.
humor considering the day. I'm not going to do my Ed Sullivan and Ed McMahon
McMahon.
secret life of what was his name? Walter Mitty intros. Have to do it differently. But in all seriousness, the Queen Esther of our time, Deborah the Judge of our time, Huldah the prophetess of our time, Boudica, queen of the ancient Iceni, the warrior queen. She almost beat the Romans and drove them out of Britain of our time. And that is just an under-exaggeration of a, like you say, A-list star who's way beyond that, who became a is a living global cultural icon, who at that point then says to the entire world, by the way, I'm your Yiddish mama, your Jewish grandma. How do you like that? Now, a lot of her followers do like that. There are some that are not so happy about it. What do you do?
Just the Jews.
What? What do you say?
Only the Jews are unhappy about it.
Frank and I had to learn the hard way. I mean, I'm so out of it. Frank had to explain to me why the Jews were unhappy with his brother, the Talmudic Jew with the beard who looks like he had a lead role in Fiddler on the Roof next to Chaim Topol. So that's the reality. And talking deep space, high level Torah from the Kabbalah and the Zohar to the whole world so desperately in need of it today, because what happened to us, as someone once made comment, is a terrible thing. Can you imagine saying, what are you bitching about what happened to me? What are a lot of Jew haters? What are you complaining about the Holocaust? Look what happened in Tibet or Ireland. A morally normal person would never say to the Cambodians, what are you bitching about with Pol Pot? Look what happened to me in Rwanda. A morally sick person speaks that way. So what happened to us is it's
a person with no empathy.
Everybody.
A person with no empathy speaks that way.
Yeah, and a lot of them do speak that way, did speak that way, are speaking that way. And October 7th is everyone's Holocaust, genocide, and pogrom day. For all of them, from the beginning of time, for every people. One day, I hope there'll be a memorial in Jerusalem for each ethnic and religious group for their Holocaust. Of course, good things too, their Holocaust, their genocide, and their pogroms, because the list is pretty endless. How many wars are going on now? We're about 40. Nobody even hears about them. So
And all of them are on tribal people and their right to live on their sacred burial grounds. In
you know
short,
who's listening
of
to
them.
you? The Green Prince, I can't pronounce his name, Yusuf, the son of the Hamas founder. He was just on Piers Morgan, who likes to talk to you, with some other guy, and said just exactly what you say. He used your term. He said the Jews are the indigenous people for 4,000 years. The other guy didn't even, it just broke his parrot. He didn't know what to say. They're the indigenous
Well,
people. They came home.
because they're the imperialist invader and they never know what to say. Okay,
So
Lowell, introduce me so I can give my speech.
that's my introduction. Now, Our Lady Roseanne, chosen of God, Yehudita Maccabee Roseanne Barr Rivka, who 3 years ago spoke about my real Jewish name and my real Jewish family and what happened to them in Lithuania. It's as gruesome as it gets, like what happened to Frank's family at Babi Yar, she wrote a prayer for the martyrs, just like last week she had a prayer for Rosh Hashanah, which Frank and Greg extracted from the talk posted on their YouTube channel, and Roseanne shared that on her Twitter channel.
Yeah, but there was more to it, you guys. You should add at the end, because I talked about rectification. You guys should put that in too. At the end.
I'll make a second video for that. So
Okay.
Roseanne is going to talk to us about.
I'm just talking about, we're all a little autistic, and I realized that what my gift or disorder of reorder is that I am a really good editor, and I can read a script and get the through line and the meaning real quick, and then realign everything in the script to go into the through line, if writers know what I'm talking about. But
well, I guess that's how your TV show became the most popular sitcom in TV history. And having said that, let me go back up to the gallery so Roseanne can talk to us. We're all in mourning. We'll have hope for a better future, and it is coming at a price. As Dr. Zelenko said, we the people will win. God will win. The only question is, what will the body count be? And it keeps going up every hour on the hour. So now I'm going back to the gallery so I can listen to Greg Svi and Frank talk with Our Lady after her prayer, and also our guests who are here from the United States and Israel.
okay, new words for a new year. I want to speak the words of Kaddish today in English for all the people, Jew and non-Jew, who were sacrificed to Moloch, the demonic god of bloodlust and hate, by his people Amalek. 1 year ago this day, October 7th in 2023. But first, a memory peg of Torah. You have heard of abracadabra, the so-called magic words. All the wizards, warlocks, and witches in Disney movies use these words, of course. The darkness must feed on light and reverse it to make it look magic instead of holy. But abracadabra is from Torah, and it means I speak it into existence. And so now I speak the words of Kaddish into existence. May they become manifest here in this realm, soon to become the kingdom of God for all 12 tribes of Israel. Glorified and sanctified be God's great name throughout the world, which he has created according to his will. May he establish his kingdom in your lifetime and during your days and within the life of the entire house of Israel, speedily and soon. And say amen.
Amen.
May his great name be blessed forever and to all eternity. Blessed and praised, glorified, exalted, extolled, honored, adored, and lauded be the name of the Holy One. Blessed be he. beyond all the blessings and hymns, praises, and consolations that are ever spoken in this world, and say amen.
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 May there be abundant peace from heaven and life for us and for all Israel, and say amen.
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 He who creates peace in his celestial heights, may he create peace for us and for all Israel, and say amen.
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 The first step of Zionism, the nation returns to its land. 2, the nation plants and harvests its land, and in doing so, its national character is reborn. Torah actually says in those days, we will become more vegan, not needing to be nomadic anymore. Plant-based consumption will increase because we will eventually want no flesh, as we want now no blood. Our eventual goal. Why is this the worst thing in the world to our genocidal enemy? Step 3 of Zionism, creative innovation and medical miracles. This is where the devil infiltrated us and why God had to destroy him in front of us. Satan is Moloch, and he wants all of us dead eventually. But first, he must use us and humiliate, divide, and destroy us so that he can consume our energy. He needs it to live. Where's the best place for the devil to hide? In church, in synagogues, in mosques, in religious groups. He wants Torah destroyed, and those who celebrate and live for it and remember every holiday in it and every grave site of every patriarch and matriarch in it, to lose our memory of it and to supplant it with his rewritten history of it, especially those historic facts about how it was moved, hidden, saved over the centuries, how it was added to by different people who reinterpreted it, sometimes to demonize it, to make it available to witches, warlocks, and wizards of Moloch. His unholy war against the Torah has not stopped for 2000s of years, and I wanted to know why, and now I do know why. Martyrs, the innocent babies forced to watch their mothers raped and then murdered in front of them, and then held for a photo op by the agent of their family's destruction to show the world how great their mom's murderer treats her babies, published in all Western newspapers, before they were then carried into darkness. Down, down, down into the same tunnels where Palestinian Arab children disappear into and are never seen again, sold also for sacrifice to the god Moloch. Moloch hates the Jews so bad, ever since we ended his bad habit of child sacrifice. Pharaoh episodically killed all the firstborn Jewish baby boys as a sacrifice to Moloch too. But Hashem brought him a Jewish boy child, whom he rightly recognized as a king, and raised him in his sacred circle as a son. Moses was the prince of Egypt. How did Moses organize a multicultural group of working class people to leave slavery behind them and become a nation not based on child sacrifice at first, and then later to invent 613 laws of moral behavior that would change the face of humanity in perpetuity as to law-based judgment weighed with mercy as assured in the United States Constitution, which lit the way for today's Knesset in Israel, to be a merciful nation of immigrants who build a dream together. I shouldn't just say immigrants, I should say
repatriates.
I should say immigrants in fear of their lives. Immigrants who fled. I should say immigrants who fled destruction. When God gets mad at the Jews for being like King Saul, the first king of Israel, who was a pacifist, commanded to kill Amalek, the genocidal enemy of his own children, and he failed to do so, and is still being blamed to this day by those in the know. When God gets mad at pacifist leaders in a time of life or death to their own people, he will usually, biblically, just destroy a place. Just to send a message to those watching from a distance, even over the constraints of time and space, such as the crumbling of the First Holy Roman Empire, and now its final rest. You see, the Holy See controls not just the nation of the Vatican, not just the banking system of the City of London, all central banks founded in the name of the Aryan kings of Germany, Russia, and Jordan, Saudi, and several oil sheiks and ayatollahs who own the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, founded in 1291 by the illegitimate offspring of Pharaoh who called themselves Knights of the Temple. The temples all being castles all along Europe into Switzerland, where Moloch worship can go unabated legally. You see the See, oh say, can you see? The Holy See also controls the UN and all of its orgs and NGOs, charities, foundations, all which run on the blood of children, and the use of children as labor slaves or paychecks of some kind, or sex slaves, or organ harvesting opportunities for billionaires whose livers were ruined during those hard partying years. The richest persons on earth are actually arrogant and ignorant enough to believe that calling themselves socialists and progressives who care about curing racism and classisms and the smelly problems of women, especially other white women who are fat and vote for Trump, or black and thin and vote for Trump, or what have you. The witches today are very different. However, the devil always overplays his hand, as he must do according to the plan God worked out for him, as it is him, the devil himself, Moloch, who brings more people to God than any holy person on earth today, despite the number of their followers. All being betrayed in your time of need, believing that your government will keep you safe, as we were saying before, this was part of the mourning that I felt. They believed they were safe enough to live next door to their genocidal enemy that they thought they could change through loving acts of kindness, as Torah does teach us to do to for the stranger. And I believe that was what was in their hearts. Kept away only by a fence because they believed that Bibi's government would keep them protected. The genocidal enemy came through the fence through a hole cut before the attack. Teenage boys and grown men together in vehicles, door to door, worse than Hitler's SS, special ops of the UNRWA. It's all been proven now. Satan murdered the two-state solution in its crib, and then he raped its mother and set them on fire. Then he took a shovel and cut off their Filipino nurse's head. Then they danced and called home, probably high on ice, just like the original German Nazis were. When I was on Glenn Beck's show, he took me into his museum and showed me his collection of World War II memorabilia. Really not the right word for that horror show, but I did get a picture of me standing next to the Arab Nazi uniform, the one they tried to hide. The one with the Islamic sword inside the swastika. History, actual history. History is getting harder and harder to be erased because of the internet. But boy, are they trying. This was the first time in history that no church and no state could keep fact and data and information from the hands of the people. But Aaron Schwartz, another one of our co-religionists, was sacrificed on that altar. But yet, we have to praise Elon Musk. We have to praise Space Force. We have to praise God who inspires all the souls on earth these days. Nazism is the belief that Jews are demonic. That makes me laugh. What a twist that one is. I can't stop laughing at that. The blood drinkers think we, who kosher an animal to remove every speck of blood in it, in covenant with our father Abraham, who ended human blood sacrifices, even of animals. We want you to know that we know what time it is, and your time's up. You're fired, Satan. You went too far this time, and you woke up the Jews. On October 8th, Hezbollah attacked Israel, and the Western world called on Israel to cease fire before Israel had fired at all. They opened up a two-front war after atrocity. And then called on the rape victim not to fight back, not to speak of it. Because she asked for it. She's wearing a short skirt all those years, not covering her head or her face. She was a whore. She deserved it. Same bullshit. 14 million against 4 billion. I don't think so. Them ain't fair numbers. J'accuse. J'accuse. I accuse you. I accuse you of double standards and demonizing Jews. Just because some Jews are rotten bastards doesn't mean we all are, okay? Got it? We did give you Jesus. Try to remember that. You're welcome. One of the things I had to repent for after I left the left, I had to repent of having privileged, lofty, leftist ideals of false safety. After being betrayed by the left because I was a Jew over and over and over on every occasion by mostly Black women who became Black nationalists, thereby betraying feminism itself. And they revoked my woman of color card because I grew up as a woman of color, being Jewish and in diaspora from Jerusalem and my native land of Judea, where Jews come from, and Arabs come from Arabia, history, words, things that matter. And when I was a leftist, of course, I mouthed all that Israel is occupying, all that crap, until I read the Goldstone report. And he had to quit the UN for giving it because he's like, you guys are crazy and you're full of shit. You make stuff up and you're lying on Israel. He was a leftist too, and left with a bombshell report that opened my eyes. I was like, oh my God, I betrayed my own. And that's why I left the left. I wanted to hang on so bad to my credentials, my street cred. But it was false, and it always betrays the Jews. I had to repent because I thought, what besides my ego and my wonderful looks blinds me to the fact that I have a genocidal enemy that I think I can entertain good thoughts for. What happened to my good old Jewish paranoia about safety? Why did I join in with the genocidal enemy of my own fellow religionists? Why did I therefore become a genocidal enemy of my own religionists? Was my ego that inflated? Did I fancy myself one of the good Jews? Otherwise known as an Uncle Tom. But when you read that book, you see Uncle Tom really was a revolutionary hero. They've shat on that too. But in the end, I did find out that there are, according to the genocidal enemy, there are no good Jews, trust me. And so to those Jews who are on the same side as the genocidal enemy of the Jews, not to understand that they are ground zero is a huge cognitive dissonance that I think is ending. I lived my life in a mirror of bubble. I was open to all enemies of every direction. I was a peacemaker in a war that will never be ended until it's won. Well, if we lose, so be it. If Hashem wants this to be a world with no Jews in it left alive, who believe in the redemption he promised to us, then Hashem is a double talker, and I personally have never known him to lie to me in our lifelong conversation. On the contrary, I do not believe he is a liar. And like Queen Esther, I will ask him on Yom Kippur, when I speak the prayer of Esther given to me 20 years ago, the prayer of Yom HaKippurim, where Esther asked the same of the upper king as to the king Xerxes, the lower king, and got the same answer. I believe it is the other guy down there, the one below, that is a shit talker. He's very good at it. He's real smooth, talking real big as he destroys you. Our martyrs suffered and died as martyrs. To a failed policy of appeasement of any sort. When it comes to Israel, the only place in the Middle East which still has Jews living in it, thanks to leftist NGO Nazi propaganda. Same hands, same people, same agenda forever. You who suffered, you who died, you still held in inhuman bondage by brainwashed bots of leftism and violence at the satanic UN. May it fall with Babylon. It is Babylon. You we hold sacred in our hearts forever because of your martyrdom. Because of your martyrdom, the Jewish people, for the first time in 2,000 plus years, once again became fully human. The scales fell from our eyes. We saw clearly what was happening and how we had failed to convey the correct message through the lens of the media. We have been totally silenced on every front, except for clowns and showmen or intellectual apologists or controlled opposition. But make no mistake, the message still got through. It's us or them. There are only 14 million of us, and half of them are drug-addicted, masochistic, leftist furries. And there are 4 billion of them. Out of that 4 billion of Christians and Muslims, roughly 51% of them love us. And they love Torah. While 49% of them, well, I think it's more like 29% of them are on the fence about us. Don't think, think we're irrelevant to their cause or their lives. And then the other percent, 20, hates our guts, as per their programming by ruling class religious operatives getting rich from selling them out. That's called democracy, folks. But their belief in a two-state Pax Romana solution in order for the new world order's one world religion, which is Chrislam, in order to control the Temple Mount, which this is all about. That's what October 7th was all about too. It was called Operation Al-Aqsa Mosque, because they thought the Jews were going to do a ritual sacrifice there because that's what the devil worshippers are telling them. And so they stormed it because they didn't want any Jewish demonic antichrist stuff to go on there at our most sacred and holy place. That's what they think of us. Their belief in a two-state Pax Romana solution was slaughtered before our very eyes. Hence, enter maritime law. LOL. Enter the age of intelligence and truth as Babylon falls. The cognitive dissonance, the imposition of imperialist corporate Roman thought forms onto an ancient tribal people, was immediately healed in the Jewish mind. Rome wants to kill us all, like they killed I guess you'll call him Jesus, their name for him, Rabbi Yeshua. They killed him for the very same reason. The Temple Mount being in the control of its people and what's underneath it, which is the history of the Jews in the Levant. And everyone knows it. I know it. You know it. All you have done to stop the redemption, to destroy Judean artifacts, Iraqi Jewish artifacts, all through the Levant Jewish artifacts. All you have done to stop that and deny Jewish history for thousands and thousands of years. You're on the wrong side. Check this out. If you get rid of all the Jews, then Islam, Chrislam, let's call it, will then own every woman on earth, every child, every dollar, every law, you see, and then it will slit your infidel throats and you'll deserve it. Oh, bad choice of words there. You will not deserve it, but you will have chosen it. So was it Belak or Bilam who spoke as Moloch and was so very disappointed to find out that his curses on Israel end up to be blessings. That's the other part of the contract God made the devil sign, and the devil, he didn't read the small print there. But anyway, their souls now join God after a year. Their souls are back with their creator, their source. Their umbilical cord restored. Their resurrection complete. Amen.
Amen.
Frank, you don't say amen.
I did. I'm sorry, it was muted. Because
Oh, good. I was waiting to hear. I will.
Amen from me too. I was also muted.
Lowell, I told you I wanted you to back me up with this
Yeah, but you got it all right. So there was no need for me, from what I know,
Okay.
there was no need for me to, I can't correct,
You know, there's these two kids that write stuff on maritime law and Pax Romana, and I just was hooked up with them. They're a Jewish couple, and they have between them written 24 books on
wow.
the tribe, you know, our people's tribal stuff. So you got to get them on here, Lowell. You got to get them on here. I'll try to hook
Okay,
that
let
up.
me make a note. I'll make a note about that so I won't forget and I write everything down in my smartphone that okay, I'll
These two kids are like, they're autistics, you know, but they're geniuses. They got every line crossed and dotted. But anyway, yeah, we're moving into a whole new year, and these 10 days of awe are about assessment, and we really have to assess things fairly and clearly from every side.
Well, that's what God's doing.
Yeah.
He's assessing, because Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur, that's God's coronation festival. That's when people show up to choose God as king and say, all right, why don't you take over and you run it. We're going to show up. We're going to be your willing subjects. And then so God during this period assesses where all of his subjects belong in his kingdom. That's the idea. Well, that's what's going on during Rosh Hashanah time, during this 10-day period.
Yeah. But we have to do it internally too. You know, we have to do it in our own. We got to get rid of the chametz, you know, or is it chametz? I can't remember, but you know, you got to get rid of all the inflated yeast.
Yeah. It's both. It's chometz and chametz. Yeah.
The Jews and inflated yeast. I got to give a whole speech on that sometime, because, you know, that's like how Jews get every disease.
Yeah. Can I speak to something that you said about tribal?
Yeah, please.
I wanted to just talk about, this is just one example of a historical pattern, but it's recent and a lot of people know about it. So we have Stalin, right?
Ooh.
I recently saw a fantastic movie. I recommend to everyone, The Death of Stalin. You know, with all the Monty Python guys and Steve Buscemi. I just saw it. It's
I
amazing.
told you about it, girl. I'm the one that told you to watch it.
No, you may have told a girl, but that wasn't.
I told you to watch it when we were talking. I said it's the funniest movie ever, and you said, "Oh, I'll have to watch it." I have.
That wasn't me.
It
Because
was.
I saw it on a YouTube, you know, like suggestion after Rosh Hashanah. I'd never even. If you would have said it to me, I would have
I
been.
did tell you. I remember every word. You told me to watch some other movie, which I watched, but I forgot it. I told you to watch that one. It's the greatest comedy ever made. Anyway, go ahead. We'll pretend.
Let's say that happened.
Pretend I don't have instant recall.
I don't remember that, but it may have happened because my memory isn't the best.
Of course it happened, or I wouldn't say it.
All right. So it shows a little bit of what I'm going to say. There's a scene in where Lavrentiy Beria, who was the head of Stalin's secret police. He's a mass murderer, psychopath, serial killer, rapist, pedophile. You know.
Yeah, they all are.
He was special. Like he made other rapists, pedophiles go like, wow, that guy. We got to do something about the guy. He's too much of a rapist and a pedophile. Anyway,
that's why I think Satan is quitting, because he's like, man, I'm getting out of the devil business. What with all these like Larry Fink, I'm giving up on the devil business.
That's like the Babylon Bee, right? Saying the devil telling them, hey guys, tone it down a little bit, right? So the pattern that I'm talking about is Stalin. So what he did was, you know, what is communism? It's just Plato.
It's just gang. It's a big fucking gang.
Yeah, but it's Plato. But if to translate it into biblical terms, it's Cain. These are the descendants of Cain and his philosophy. So Cain is he developed you know, the city system, right? The Torah says he was the first city builder, but that doesn't mean he was just building a structure. It was a system that he was building.
Of tunnels.
Yes, because the tunnels and roads and corridors, he put people like rats in a maze. He created a maze for people. He goes, you live here, you eat here, at this time you go here to the bathroom, this is where you're going to work, this is how you're going to travel. That's the city system. That's what people have been living in. When you live in a city, you are a controlled rat.
Right.
So Cain is the one who innovated that. So what is that system? What is it trying to accomplish? It elevates, it has this idea called the ascension of man. The ascension of man is you take a man and you elevate him to a godlike figure. That's
why they built the Tower of Babel, was that exact philosophy. Now they could manifest it.
Nimrod was a Cainian, a big time follower of Cain. And
Moloch.
Yeah. So basically you have, you know, it's a pyramidal system, but you put a human being into the top of the pyramid and you don't put God there.
You put a Cain line.
You put a Cain on the you know, as the zenith of the pyramid. Yeah. Rafi, you wanna chime in here? Okay, so basically, it's very important that in the Cain system, people do not have a connection to the land. That's why, if you notice, the city is kind of, it covers
because they believe that all land is theirs.
Right, but they fear the connection of a person walking on the land, literally like walking on the land, because that will connect the person to God. And the city is the clippa over the earth, right? It's just a covering to cover what's beneath it.
And beneath it is the sacred dead.
But they live within the earth, right? The earth that's God's system. The natural system, you know, agrarian, right?
The earth is the mother and the father is the seed.
That's another way of putting it. But basically, they want to prevent people from walking the land and from, you know, they want to take away people's ability to think for themselves, to bond with the land, to feel anything. So they cover over everything that makes a person, that connects a person to God, that diminishes a person's intuition. That's the city system.
They destroy everything female and all the mothers. They destroy the connection to your mother, your memory, your history.
If you're talking about the Shekhinah, then yeah.
Yes, I am. Always.
So you can't feel it. You know, you can't feel it.
Presence of God in the world.
There's only one city that's built for mom. That's Jerusalem. That's the only city that should be on earth. Okay.
That is a mom city for sure.
That's where, you know, that's where God, he presents himself as the Shekhinah, right? God's ultimate plan of relating to mankind is through
the Shekhinah is God's bride.
That's metaphorically speaking. It's God. The way God decides to interact with man. He puts on the Shekhinah costume, persona, to interact with man. God has many costumes that he can put on. But when Mashiach comes, he'll finally put on the Shekhinah persona, and that's what he plans. That's how he plans on interacting with humanity through this motherly, feminine. That's a whole talk.
It's called Bina, And that is the loving heart of mercy, that consciousness.
Yeah.
Bina, the loving heart of mercy like a mother has for her children, which is
That's
different from what a father has, which is more, a stern hand of judgment with mercy, the mother. But the mother and father are necessary to raise a righteous child for that reason.
So the city system interferes with that agenda. That's the agenda of the God of the Hebrew Scripture. So Cain was the first recorded Gnostic, and so he wants to make sure that people don't have a connection to the land. So leaders have done this, Sanherov, but Stalin, right? Historically, that's easy to, there's lots of records and people still alive that remember. He moved tribal peoples around the Russian territories, like the Tartars, he moved them to Ukraine. And he did that
Right.
with many, many, many ethnic groups so that they lose their connection to the land. And therefore he pushes the
Yeah, and it's not just the land as kind of a, it's the actual minerals in that land that their bodies for generations have become accustomed to fight off disease of their particular sort of DNA. So they disrupt that and cause disease too.
And absolutely. And that's why Jews are not so healthy on Eastern European food.
Right.
We're not really supposed to, but Russians eat the same, ethnic Russians eat the same food that Jews do. They're healthy, no problem. Jews, there's the sickly, without getting into that, you're right. So Stalin wanted to disconnect people from their tribal lands. And this is why communists, which all the Arab terrorists are, Khomeini is the KGB, they're all
communists.
They're all educated at Patrice Lumumba University. My friend Greg educated me on this. When I looked into it myself, I was like, okay, they are Gnostic, whatever they present themselves as, whether they present themselves as like Christian or Muslim, the people who are causing all the damage in the world right now are neither. They are Gnostic. They are religious, but they are Gnostic in their belief system, okay? Which supersedes any particular religion that they claim to be connected to, all right? So Khomeini is, you got to see him, you got to see a photo of him in the 60s. He looks like some beatnik, he doesn't have no beard, no head covering, no nothing. He's wearing sunglasses, and he could have blended in, in the village in the late 50s, in the beat, what are they called? The beat? Forgot the beat movement. These retard poets, whatever. So the point is that Stalin, he wanted to, disconnect people, and the Jews are the primary obstacle to making that happen.
Right.
That's why they hate the Jews more than anything else, regardless of where they come from, regardless of anything that they've experienced. They hate the Jews because the Jews represent the strongest tribal identity connected to their land. After 2,000 years, we never, ever, ever disconnected ourselves from the land. And for those of you listening, you may not know, but when Jews pray, we pray a minimum of 3 times a day. We have 3 services per day. And every single one of those prayers, we always say that we await the coming Mashiach and the return to our homeland and to be in Jerusalem. And these are absolutely fundamental to our religion. We have no religion without Israel and Jerusalem. It is absolutely nothing. You had in the 1850s, you had these political breakaway cults called they call themselves Reformed Judaism and conservative. They're not conservative, but they call themselves conservative Judaism. And the point of that was the whole point of it was to disconnect Jews from Jerusalem. That's why Jews never called their houses of worship temples. That never, ever, because we know we only have one temple. And the rule.
Yeah, because that's just Jesuit programming.
Exactly, yes. And the Thank you for saying that. And my friend Ninja Alex would be very happy to hear that. And so basically, when Jews would pray, we would pray, you know, in Europe, we'd use the word shul. Shul just means school.
Yeah, we said shul. We
Or
went to a,
Stiebel.
we
Stiebel
went
means
to
a
a
room.
sailor shul in my town. We went to a Sephardic sailor synagogue.
But our houses of worship were just, we've always looked at them as temporary rooms. You might find, like, you know, in cities they built elaborate synagogues, but there's a custom, not just in the synagogues, in the Jewish home, to leave some piece of it unfinished, some imperfection, as a reminder that this is.
It reminds me of my grandmother when she'd bake challah. She'd always take a little piece of the challah, roll it in a ball, and throw it in the back of the oven. And when she died, we cleaned the oven, and there was about 250 burnt black balls in the back there. Because that was for the temple.
Make sure the bread wasn't perfect, right? Like, yeah.
No, to remember the temple, that nothing can be complete.
Oh, you mean, okay, so that's the law of challah. She was just doing, okay. But so even the elaborate, like, you know, houses of worship, like in Milan and, you know, in the medieval Europe, they were always built and left in imperfection as a reminder that this is just a temporary place. We only have one house of worship, and that is the temple in Jerusalem. Okay, and so we never forgot that. Our entire,
and so they built on top of it. Can you imagine the arrogance to build on top of another people's holiest place and then not allow them to return to it?
yeah,
and then call them the invaders, and then call them the occupiers. It's like mind-binding. But this is a great, because Yom is going to be on Shabbat, so that means we get 4 times the soul, 4 times the awareness on that day. So that's going to be a really good thing.
Yeah, and we're talking about yesterday as to how to feel that, but all the leaders from all the empires that came before, historically, literally from Cain all the way until right now, right? They've all understood that you have to prevent Jerusalem, you have to prevent the Israelite soul and the Israelite body to return and to live in Israel and to bask in the influence of the Shekhinah, right? And that's their priority number one that they're warring against. They've been warring against that, and so that's why they hate the Jews so much. For anybody wondering, why does the left?
You know what they call that? They call that the coming of the Antichrist.
Yeah, they'll come up with any story, any political slogan, anything to, you know, to try to prevent that, to demonize it, to interfere with it, to scare people away from it, right? To demoralize Jews from achieving what we were tasked by God to achieve. And so that's it. So every leader has always tried to do that. Stalin is probably the most famous example of it. But they hate, you know, now we have the globalists, which are the same exact thing. They hate borders. They hate ethnic identity, all of which is important.
They hate women. They hate women.
They despise women in their true form, the way a woman is supposed to be. They love Lilith women.
Yeah, they do.
But they hate women.
You're not supposed to say her name, but.
Oh, I heard. I'm not worried about it. We got to let people know. Okay, Lilith represents the fallen woman, the woman in her broken, damaged form as a slave to this Canaanian, demonic, satanic understanding. Okay, so
yeah, she's the lower mother, the mother of darkness. She's the mother of darkness, and the other one is, you know, the presence of God.
Right. They just
reversed everything. They reversed
don't like
it.
the idea. They don't like the idea of the woman as she was created to be by the Creator. So that's so you're right. They do despise the woman, and so that explains really everything that's going on. The tactics that they use, the murder and the torture and the rape, have always been used, and people just think that they're doing it because they're a bunch of animals and who really love doing it, which is not 100% untrue. That is true, but there is a science to it that they use. Okay.
Yeah, they're created with
Yeah.
MK Ultra torture.
Well, that's what we call it in this generation, but it's existed in all previous generations, right? Terror, torture, butchery, and all this kind of stuff have been scientifically used, and the masters of this were the Canaanites. That's why God wanted them eradicated.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they study it.
Yeah.
They keep notes on it.
Like Beria
it.
in the movie. Do you remember in the movie The Death of Stalin, when Beria is telling his NKVD goons to go and kill people on the list? There's a scene where he's saying, kill him, but kill his wife first, make sure he sees it. Boom.
Yeah.
And then he said, oh, go and kill that priest, dump his body in his pulpit, make sure everybody sees it.
Yeah.
Strangle this guy's mother in front of him, then kill him. Why are they doing this? It's not just that they're insane animals that just have this bloodlust and torture, even though that's true, but they're doing it because it's all about destroying the agenda of the God of the Hebrew Scripture, punishing and raping children, mutilating them, killing them, raping wives, turning them into whores, everything that a normal person who has the normal God-given instincts about, they feel when something is wrong, right? They don't hurt the animal. No, they're hurt. They want to completely destroy any connection that people have to God. By doing by doing what they did, they are, first of all, doing many things at once. They're creating a world of terror because they can only control things by terror, because people knew the reality of what they're trying to do, and they would immediately reject it. That's why Stalin had to kill millions and keep everybody in fear. But at the same time, they're deadening the human, natural, intuitive connection to God. That kicking a kitten is wrong, raping a child is wrong, raping a woman is wrong, burning someone alive is wrong, torturing them in front of their family. They do these extreme things to shake the human consciousness away from this God-given intuition. That's the Gnostic method.
Yes, it is.
Using it since the very beginning. That's all I have to say.
Have you read the Jesuit Oath?
Yeah, we have it.
It's all in there. It's like, well, it's any means necessary, which, that's how you know that Farrakhan and all them are Jesuits.
Yeah. These people have to die. The only way that the world will ever have a chance of being good is when people who see that kind of torture, murder, and justify it by doing some kind of mental gymnastics. Anybody who did it, obviously the people who did it, those who paid for it, and those who are marching for them now, need to be removed from the world. That the world cannot go forward with God's plan while those traits exist. And it doesn't matter who you are. Like I said yesterday, that in the unlikely event that I would ever see a Jew doing something that horrible, I would kill that Jew. That person has to be removed from the world. That trait in general needs to disappear, and disappear forever. And it should be the most obvious thing in the world. It's the easiest thing in the world to achieve salvation. People come up with all these complicated things. And I think, to me, God's just like, don't murder, torture, burn people alive. Don't rape women while putting their kids in ovens. It's pretty straightforward, actually.
I think that his big thing is, don't speak my name in vain. I think that's a big one with him. And people got really mad at me because I said, let's kill this goddamned deep state, and they said, you use the name of God in vain. They were all mad at me because I said, God damned.
Well, they don't know what
But,
that means.
They don't, that isn't God's name. That's his official title. And, you know, he's got another name that we speak on Yom Kippur, and people don't even know that. Not even, you know, least of all Jewish people. But no, his name isn't God. And he doesn't like it when people use his actual name in vain. And
The laws about of how to observe the third commandment, right? Do not take my name in vain, is basically where he has the various names that we hear about him in Torah and their translation, which can be
yeah, those are his attributes.
which are appellations, but none of them are allowed to be used in the wrong context. The wrong context.
Right.
Let me say what the right context is. When you're reading the Torah during services, when you're writing a Torah, when you're saying a blessing, and when you are learning about the laws of not saying God's name in vain, are the only times where his name is allowed to be used to a limited capacity. But what you said, even though God is an appellation for God, and it does have to be, it does fall under those laws, but you said something which is true. The people that you're referring to truly are damned by God. They're God damned. That is a true statement. So it's not the same.
It is a true statement.
Yeah. Hang on a second. I'm having a. Hey, sorry about that. Talk amongst yourselves.
Do we want to have questions or comments from other people?
Roseanne, I just want to say quickly before it's okay, before we take questions. If you guys remember in 2016, Ivanka went to the Rebbe's Ohel in Queens right before the election. And she did it again in 2020, and we know what happened there. And today, as we speak, President Trump is on the way to the Ohel. I don't know that he's ever been there.
He
And
has.
maybe a long time ago, but not as president, not as candidate. And I think that's very significant. I think it's very
He
significant. And
knows.
for sure,
He knows. He knows a lot about Torah.
Of course, he
He
does.
knows a lot about God, more now than ever.
Yeah, but
That's what's great.
They targeted Kfar Chabad
Huh?
today. In Israel, there's a city called Kfar Chabad, which has a replica of 770, the building in 770 Eastern Parkway, Brooklyn, where the Rebbe lived. It's a Chabad village, started, back in the 40s. And today there was a house destroyed in Kfar Chabad. Thank God, as far as I know, no one was killed. But the fact that he's going to the Rebbe's Ohel and Kfar Chabad was targeted, that's a sign, that's a sign that they really understand what they should be worried about.
Yes. So I figured 7 million of us versus about 2 billion Jew haters.
Which verses?
I just figured out there's 7 million of us that are like, that like Torah and Israel. Maybe not everything about Israel, but believe Jews should live there. And there should be a Jewish state. And it should be actually based on Torah, not leftist bullshit. There's about 5 to 7 million of us and 2 billion Jew haters. So I think those are not good odds for them.
It doesn't matter how how many Jew haters there are.
No, I'm saying it's not good odds for them.
Yeah, it's not, because, you know, it doesn't matter if there's 100 trillion terrorists. What's that compared to God? Absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter how, it could be 100 quadrillion terrorists. It doesn't matter how many of them there are. There'll never be a majority against God. You know, that's what I wish people would understand. If the faster they get to that, the faster things can become peaceful.
I think he's just gonna have to show us all.
Exactly.
So whatever happens is because that's what he wants to happen, and he's gonna have to just show us all. He's gonna show us where we're wrong and where we're right, but it'd be cool if we figured out where we were wrong before we had to, because then maybe and repent for it. Because then
We don't gotta
maybe
guess.
he won't
He
show us so much.
laid it all out in the Torah. There's no guessing. This is not, you know, laid it all out. He's like, here's what I want you to do. Here's what I'd like you to stay away from.
Can you imagine, though, having to be the prime minister of Israel with all those disparate views that are going on over there, particularly like Tel Aviv versus Jerusalem, and then all the outlying things, Spot and the Galilee, and all the disparate opinions? To have to be the prime minister of that country would be very difficult. And try to get a majority, oh my God, that'd be hard.
Difficult for a prime minister who doesn't know, who's not 100% sure that Torah is the right way to go. I was looking at the comments today on YouTube videos, newsreels about what Israel is doing. I've never seen so much positivity and so much support for Israel in YouTube comments. And I realized it's because of success. It's because when people are doing the right thing, when evil is being destroyed, it's being fought and destroyed, and success, and God's allowing success, people all over the world immediately respond to that, and confusion starts to evaporate. Well, obviously, you got to.
What do you think about McGregor and the shit he says? He says Israel's getting its ass kicked. What do you think about that?
There's an element within, you know, I don't know, whatever, you know, I'm sure he's viewed as right wing or something like that. That
I don't know what
is always, Israel is wrong no matter what. Okay, no matter what, Israel is at fault, and Israel is wrong, and Israel is always. This is something that there exists this element, a very potent element, which is a Torah law. It's called Esav hates Jacob. That's the name.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Rabbi Kessin says this is the tikkun of Esau, and that Trump's doing it.
Trump is.
Right.
But there's still there's a chaff within Esav that will be separated from the wheat. Okay?
Right.
So Esav is going to be reabsorbed back into the fold, back into the family, but not all of Esav. There's this element, this chaff that will be blown away.
Right.
I think people with McGregor's view, people like him almost don't even have free will. Like, he sees, no matter what, his rule is golden to him. The Jews are always wrong, Israel is always wrong, and everybody else is always right. That's just their absolute, that's the essence of his soul.
Isn't it funny to see that? I mean, even though facts dictate otherwise, like the Goldstone report, they're blinded.
Because he's a Canaan, and Canaans will always tell you, do not believe your lying eyes. Believe what the party tells you to believe.
Right, that's true. They are just filthy commies.
Exactly. That's precisely the best possible explanation for them. They're the filthiest of the commies, and commies are all.
They said, it says in Torah that they are those who cannot change. Because they're 100% programmed. They're not a soul, because only a soul can change. Their mind, their opinion, their birthright.
That's kind of what defines a demon from the Torah perspective.
It is a demon. And I love that they call the Jews demonic. Is that hilarious?
James Lindsay said there's like this rule, the leftist rule.
It's called the iron law of woke projection.
The iron law of woke projection. That's this. I like that term. If you think about it.
What did y'all think of Candace saying we make matzah out of Christian baby blood and all that shit?
It has to be. She has to be
surprised
offended.
that she said that. I'm not surprised that she said that because she's always been a frantic, spastic retard who married a gay Nazi. Right? So I was a little bit, when people are, when she just showed up out of nowhere, right? I hate learning about people. Everybody's like, hey, you heard of this person, that person? I'm like, no. Oh, let me tell you about them. No, it's okay. I'm not, like, she's one of those people that people were constantly like talking about. I'm like, what did she save like a whole bunch of old people from a nursing home fire? Why is she so? I could not understand why people were talking about her. She literally accomplished zero. She didn't do anything of value to.
Well, she's an influencer. She's an influencer, but
I don't know what that means.
It's funny how she reverted back to something so dark in her own people's history. That's deep black anti-Semitism from the black churches. That's just bad. I was shocked.
Black liberation theology. That's just not communism. That's all it is.
Jeremiah Wright type shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, Cynthia wants to say something. Raise her hand.
Actually, I don't know how y'all will think about this, but it's been very, very thousands of years. You know what temple prostitutes are?
Yeah.
You know what honeypot is.
Okay. What?
A honeypot.
Of course.
Yeah.
They will train these, think of geisha. So they will select these young girls and they will train them. They will pick them. If they're intelligent enough and they become beautiful enough, they will pimp them out to powerful, rich people in hopes that they can influence them.
Well, they marry them, like especially in Hollywood.
Yes.
In Hollywood, they're all priestesses from, the mothers of darkness and satanic tribes that marry into Hollywood.
I didn't learn this till many years ago, and I believe the Roman Catholic Church has practiced this for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Yes. And anyway, I just you wonder where Candace Owens comes from. Well, who knows? Because this stuff is careful. I will give you a real experience.
She's a papist now.
Yes, she is.
Papist. And so that's a Jesuit.
All the illegals have been brought in by Catholic NGOs.
Yep.
I had a friend who tried to help one of them because they needed it. And when the Catholic Charities found out that she had given
Catholic
them
Charities, which is a foundation under the UN, they're doing it.
But
they take taxpayer money to fund it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But she, at a local level, the Catholic Church made her give that money back. He said, no, we will take care of you. Do you see? So I'm going to hush now and listen. I just didn't know if y'all had considered
You're
that.
right. The Catholic Church and the UN is the hub and center of child trafficking in the world. And so are the banks. They're all in on it. It's a Jeffrey Epstein world. That's what it all showed. And it showed recently with the arrest of Diddy that the Boule and the heir of Rav are like that. They work together to control their own people, to make them vote left, which means their destruction.
You're going to hate me for this. You're going to hate me for this.
Oh, I don't hate.
Melania knows 5 languages. I just worry about her background and if she was groomed for her place. I worry about it. Bye.
Well, Cynthia, can I answer that for a second? If you study the Hebrew scripture, you'll notice an interesting pattern. The Messiah right? King David, right? And his
Yeah.
they came from Lot and his two daughters. Remember when Sodom was being destroyed, pretty rough episode to read about, right? There was an incestuous union between him and his two daughters, and one was started two nations, Moab and Ammon, and Ruth, she came from Moab, and she was the great grandmother of King David.
Right.
Converted. She was great. So why did God do that? Like why would King David have to come from such, what is arguably a scandalous, he had problems with this during his life. Like people were pursuing him because they weren't sure whether or not he was even Jewish, because some people never learned the oral tradition about, because the Torah says, don't let Moabites into the covenant. But it's referring to the males, not the females. Why? Because the Moabites are not allowed to become Jewish, because when Israel was passing through their territory in the Exodus, they did not come out and did not offer them a little bit of water. They didn't even offer them the opportunity to buy some water and a little bit of food, right? And these are related nations, right? Abraham and Lot, right? So for this reason, that's why God said in the Torah, don't allow Moabites into your covenant. But it referred only to the men. Why? Because the women were never expected to come out and greet, a group of people. That was not something that God would require from a woman. Women were not expected to do that. Okay, to go present themselves in front of a group of strangers and say, here, right? It's dangerous. So it's not a reasonable thing to require a woman to do that. That's why Moabite women were allowed. But not everybody knew that. And David suffered terribly throughout his whole life because of his ancestry. But nevertheless, Messiah comes through David. Okay? But think about what happened to David's, to his great-great-grandfather, Yehuda, the son of Judah, the son of Jacob, right? He had the incident, which was astounding, with Tamara, right? Who presented herself as a prostitute. She disguised herself. And then, so through that union, right, came David as well. So so what is God doing? Why isn't it coming through more like obviously honorable, kind of above board source? Right?
Because there ain't any. Because there ain't any.
Because no, there are, but the reason is because there's this kind of midrashic idea, which it's a law, which is not. I'm going to say it, but it's not meant to be.
Yeah, it's all about redemption and of the soul.
It's
right.
It's about what they call it. This is just the name of it. It's called tricking the Yetzer Hara.
Yes,
because Satan, right? He will commit all of his forces to the obvious targets, the most righteous men from the most, the people who are absolutely devoted to God all the time. Then there's never been any even question about their pedigree or their actions, and they're beyond criticism. There are people like that, but God didn't send the Messiah through them because they're an obvious target for the Yetzer Hara. He, like you said earlier, Roseanne, that Moses grew up in Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh would have never expected that the Redeemer of his enemies would that he himself would raise him, right, and nourish him, right, and make sure he grew up strong and connected and wise and brilliant, and then that would be the one for his downfall. That's how God works against the powers of evil, that their destroyers will come from among them. So if Melania, if you have this concern about Melania's background, or even Trump's background, right? Why do they hate him so much? Because he was among them until they realized who he really is. That he was the tool of their destruction. That God Himself was going to use one of their own, right, seemingly that they thought, to destroy them. So Melania could just be another example of that.
all that looking at other people to see if they're not good enough, that's a sign that you need to look at yourself and see what's wrong with you. That's the only reason we notice something wrong in somebody else is because something's wrong in us. That's your cue from God that, are you who you say you are? Huh?
That's me.
Are any of us who we say we are? This is the time to figure that out. Do you do one thing and say another? This is the time to figure that out. So seeing something in somebody else is a real what is a way of seeing something in you that you can't face. So you have to see it in somebody else, but it's a big clue. You might be saying one thing and doing another. You should look at that. I'm just saying that with love, but that's what I find whenever I am going to look at somebody else. I know that cue and I go, damn, this is true. I have been bullshitting my way through a few things, you know. Their karma is none of your business. Your karma is your business. That's what we're here for. But yeah, the world is controlled by a negative force right now, but it's going. It's done and over. They got caught and they caught themselves and then they exposed themselves right and left. Then they told us not to notice, but we did notice. So things are going to change.
Roseanne, you know what I told Frank yesterday? We're just talking about
What?
all the stuff that we're waiting for, you know, evil to be defeated and everything like that. And I told him all these people that we're seeing today who are going against God, they are an amateurish version. I mean, all the evil people in history had I call a stupid element to them. I mean, they planned everything. They were, in some ways, they were geniuses, but in other ways, they were very stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But we are very lucky in this generation that we're dealing with people who are very, very, very stupid, and
Yeah.
they're not even geniuses. Some of them got very lucky. You could say, "Oh, this guy's an investment genius, and this guy's a financial this." They got very, very lucky. You know, this like again, Frank and I we spoke about who Soros is, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, he's like their lightning rod of other people, so they could say, you know, that a Jew is doing something. But this guy like had this one event, this seminal event. He almost crashed a pound. You know, he took a bet, and since then he you know everybody touts him as a genius. He's not a genius. He is not a genius, and we're dealing with very stupid people. You know, it's like in Spaceballs.
He's such a genius that he made money obsolete.
For sure. But you know, in Spaceballs, what's his name? He the helmet. He goes because good is gonna lose because good. I'm just paraphrasing because good is dumb. It's actually not
Rick
evil.
Moranis, he's like,
Yeah, Rick Moranis.
that's why you will lose, Lone Star, because good is dumb.
Good is dumb, but it's not true. It's that evil is dumb. They're very dumb, and our generation is dealing with like the dumbest of the dumb
Well,
version
lies always
residue.
get exposed. It always happens that a lie is exposed and the
Yeah,
truth destroys it.
yeah,
That's the strongest force on earth. But they want us to believe just the other way, that if they criminalize truth and put Tina Peters in jail for 10 years, that's going to, cover up the truth. But it isn't. It's just going to make the lie, when it's exposed, it's going to make Tina Peters' lawsuit more valuable.
yeah. They don't understand that they're just getting more and more people to look at, you know, to look at the cockroaches scatter, you know, to look at the where the light pops up.
They just
And-
want instant
Yeah.
reaction. They want the newspaper headlines today. And then when they're exposed 10 weeks later or 2 weeks later, they bury that.
It's memory hold, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they kicked.
I mean,
they
it's
kicked the
total
can
mass
down the road.
mind control. It's total mass mind control.
Yes.
And the people who are most susceptible to it, I guess it appears, are American Jews and American Blacks. Particularly their women. Mass mind control of the women in the minority groups.
I think it was you, Frank, that told me about a video of this nurse that was talking about how, what is it, neurologically people are wired not to accept new information or something like that. And
Yeah.
I think I think that's what this is. Even the other day, somebody in my family was like, we had this whole conversation about how all these things that were conspiracy theories ended up being true, and then somebody in my family was like, which, can you name them? I'm like, is that a serious question? You're seriously asking this question after all this time? You're not paying attention? Like, hello. And I don't know. I was just trying to tell Frank yesterday that, yeah, we are dealing with evil. Yes, we are. He calls it boring and tragic. Boring in the sense that it's just moving. Everything's moving very, very slow.
Well, like I said in my prayer for Rosh Hashanah, I prayed that intelligence would descend and destroy all mind trappings, and that all negative programming in us would be removed, and especially cognitive dissonance about our own history, that we would stop accepting what the genocidal enemy rewrites about us and know who we are, our own history. And that's totally censored everywhere.
Yeah.
Even on the internet.
Of course.
The only people who have the true history of the Jews are the Vatican archives.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were
Pretty
going to go.
amazing. What?
I was going to say that, well, I'm sure the Vatican has the true history, which they're trying to suppress, but there's still a group of people that have the real history,
Yeah.
and they're sitting in yeshivas all over the world.
Well, the Apocrypha has the 1, 2, and 3 books of the Maccabees about how the Maccabees defeated Rome. Well, they took that and hid it.
Yeah.
So we don't know
The
that.
original Hebrew, the original Hebrew, that's right.
We got a hold of that because we have hackers and all kind of activists, us Jews. And we got a hold of that history of how Rome was defeated the first time. And then they made a big comeback, but in World War I. But they're done.
Yeah. Can I tell you, this is related to what you just said, but this is not really based on what I learned in yeshiva from the Torah tradition. This is like an informed speculation based on what I learned from the Torah tradition. So it's, for me, take it with a grain of salt. I believe that America is the waiting area where God collected most of the lost tribes of Israel.
Yeah, it is.
And that that's who we have here in America. Among many, now there's many other elements too, but the core of America is are these people of Hebrew ancestry, and many of them even believe that about themselves. And I think that's
the indigenous peoples.
Well, I was actually talking about what people call the settlers, talking about the white Europeans that came here, the people who call themselves Christians, and also, for instance, like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, and they actually believed that they were of Hebrew origin, and they were looking for their brothers here in America among the tribes. That's true. That's what they believe.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah. So I've come to accept that for my personal reasons. Yair Davidi, who talks with Lowell a lot, had a big impact on that. I looked at what he was talking about. I'm like, holy crap. But so why am I bringing that up now? Well, because,
It's the ingathering of the 12 tribes right now.
yeah, but also, if you notice, America just had its own October 7th. In North Carolina, in Tennessee, Georgia, instead of using demonically, these demonic-like monkey creatures to rape, slaughter, and murder, they used, they nudged the weather, so to speak, to affect and to devastate this area, because, I mean, that's where you have these lost Hebrew tribes. They don't know that about themselves yet, but it's 10 times. If you believe some of the estimates, and if you look at the devastation and all the missing people, right? It could be unfortunately a very, very high figure of dead people who are still suffering, isolated, literally.
I think they just want to kill Trump voters.
We're talking about the same things. These are different names for the same.
My friends are getting helicopters and flying in supplies. I just want to say that.
I would kind of like to go. I don't know what I would do, but I'm about to get hit with Milton in Florida.
Oh my God.
I don't know what that's going to be, so I got to probably stick around. But yeah, I just want people to know that there's a obvious connection between the people of America and the people of Israel. Is this that wasn't obvious? And the fact that this tragedy occurred almost at the same time, a year later, is not a coincidence.
No, it's not a coincidence. And it's not a coincidence neither that if you say the Anabacoa, you can change a weather pattern. If you have that in your mind, of mind over matter, and you say the Anabacoa, you can change a weather pattern. I don't know if you can change a dew pattern, but I think maybe you can, because God can do anything.
Roseanne,
What?
have you ever seen this book?
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
Yes. That is a good book.
By the way, written by
I
Rabbi
just got one.
Ariel Bartzadov wrote that. He's in Tennessee.
Yeah, Knoxville.
Nobody knew what, that rabbi was alive or dead because he was in the affected area. So he actually, Greg saw him say something on social media. Oh, what's the name of the book, Greg? Somebody's asking.
It's called Using the Holy Names of God, Developing Psychic Abilities Using the Secret Codes Within the Torah. Basically, what he does is he takes certain verses, different verses from the Torah, from the Chumash, 5 books of Moses, and there's what's called a concept, Roshei Tevot, which is basically the first letters of words in different verses, and you're making new kind of words or phrases, and these are basically like chants, meditations. There's different ones. There's like there's like abundance. There's like defending from like yesterday I did one, actually during Rosh Hashanah I did one to stop because he has a whole chapter on stopping the forces of Nimrod, which basically is like World Economic Forum, all these different things. And it's interesting, you could say like, how is one Jew sitting somewhere doing like something against like I don't know, let's just say Klaus Schwab. How's that going to affect? If you think about it, there's only 14 million of us on this planet, and each Jew is like in and of himself like a power, like a spiritual power station. So imagine a Jew who's really has powerful, we call kavanah, intention, goes and sits down and chants these verses, these Roshei Tevot, against like horribly evil forces, directing them directly. I don't know, I'm not praising myself, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. I don't know if anybody's done that except for me, maybe in Bartzadok, and maybe a couple of other people on planet Earth.
No, the Anabacoa is the first letter of every verse in Torah.
Yeah.
So, arranged in letters of 3 sequence and 7 columns.
So people do it every day. Yeah.
Every day. So it's harnessing all the power of everything in Torah in one prayer. So, all that stuff is like also in Book of Esther, all those ciphers in Book of Esther,
Yeah, yeah, of
harnessing the power of the names.
course.
So,
By the way,
you
this
know,
book also has protection from like psychic attack, like spiritual attack from others, because we have constantly, you know, this is why we have this whole thing in Judaism, like, which I don't really understand people who post, like, for example, on social media, their accomplishments in business and their accomplishment, you know, they post their pics of their children, and I'm just like, hello, ayin hara, you know,
I
and
know, I wonder that
it's
too.
just, you know, you know, maybe I was not guilty of this, but I was also talking to myself as well, you know, and so we can protect ourselves from these things. Even people who are close to us, who like love us, and they don't mean to do these kind of things. They don't even know they're doing them. So everybody's human, right? They see other people succeeding and happy or what have you. And you know, there's different things in this book. It's interesting.
Well,
Roseanne, let's do a Torah show. Teach Torah to the world.
huh?
Let's do a Torah show. We'll teach Torah to the world. What do you say?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think people need it. I want to do it. I just had Jake set it up so I could do it on Rumble.
All right.
Because I know I need to, and I don't know, I think people need to hear it because it's just so beautiful how everything's written there, and it's got all the answers that we need.
You finally show the codes to the world, you know, that's finally needs to come to the forefront. We can start with teaching people about the letters. That's my favorite subject, you know. Show you some stuff.
Yeah, I love that subject too, especially not, you know, especially Aleph. We'll talk about Aleph, but well, I guess I better end it because they're gonna want me to go do something. I gotta
They
clean something or wash something or something like that before too long.
They make you wash the dishes.
Oh, well, yeah, they got 2 kids and they're running around. Yesterday I cut about 5 acres of grass. That was fun on my tractor. That was fun. I like to go out on my tractor and cut grass. I really
That's what I
love it.
that I got to see at some point.
Well, you know, I really do some good thinking out there cutting that grass and smelling all that good grass smell. That's good for you.
Whenever there was like heavy machinery around, he'd go and try to ask the guy, could I let me run the excavator? And the guy lets him do it. And I'm talking to the guy, I'm like, why would you let him get in that machine? Talk about Dr.
That's
Zelenko.
fun. Well,
yeah,
love you guys, and
right back at you.
sweet year for everyone.
Amen.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Peace. Shalom.
Peace. Shalom.